Hello world, Augustin Cortez coming live from Web3. As you can see, I only wear 4 to 5 sweaters, even though I got like 50. But I had a wholesome weekend, got to recharge the batteries and really ponder. And what I want to talk about today is that Web3 will perplex you. What I mean by that is that Web3 is full of complexity and you will go into rabbit holes, you will learn, and then you will realize how much you don't know, and you have so much to learn and you can feel lost, even though you've been learning a ton. That's the power of Web3. It's one of the few domains that is so multi-dimensional that you can get a firm understanding of one area, but then realize you have a complete absence of another area and then another area. So you feel like you put in so much effort to understand it, but you're barely scraping against the mountain. Now, this is totally normal. There's plenty of fields to this extent, but Web3 is one of the ones that is so broad and there's multiple categories simultaneously working together that it leads to emergence of complexity. So you will be perplexed, no matter how strong of a polymath you are, no matter how well of an autodidact you can be. The field is too grand for a human mind to grasp in a quick manner. Gradually over time, you will be able to simmer in, start to observe the space, but even then, Web3 is evolving at an extremely rapid rate. So what you currently know will advance at a very rapid scale, or actually the information that you know could become obsolete at a very rapid scale. So the life cycle of knowledge here is fairly short. Now, with that being said, you will be perplexed, you have to know what your end goal is in Web3, because even myself, where I have a very specific vision for what I want to be building in Web3, being perplexed in the areas like, what do I want? What's going on here? And you're gonna hit a wall where you are gonna have to ponder and think, what is it that you're trying to do? Now, you might be in here for sheer curiosity and just want to understand the space. That's totally fine. Keep it at that. Stay curious, poke around, and just have that mindset, right? Continue learning. Now, on the other side, where you want to build, where you want to specialize in an area, this is where it can get tricky, because you can know what you want, but then to execute and bring it to life, it's a whole nother story. That's where you're probably gonna have to delegate and create a team and specialize in a certain area to make sure it comes to fruition. So I'll give a personal story. I started Web3 not that long ago. I've been aware, I've been somewhat diligent on the space in the sense of keeping up to date with what's happening in crypto, but I never went under the hood until past couple months. And when I did, everything started clicking in the terms of what makes the blockchain valuable, how NFTs work, how tokens work, exchange of value. And where I had a big pivotal shift in my perspective was with tokenomics and economics itself. This is where I understood at the protocol level of value, like what makes Bitcoin valuable, what makes Ethereum valuable, or Ether, what makes Solana valuable, what makes the Binance chain valuable. And that was the area I had a lot of confusion on, because I knew that building infrastructure at the protocol level was one of the most difficult things to do from a technical standpoint. But I didn't know what the purpose of the build was. Like, what is the philosophy to build this extremely complicated protocol? And it turns out that it just comes down to tokenomics. You have a purpose to build an economy and ecosystem of development, usability, utility, and so on. So with that, you have the purpose to create. Once you have the purpose, you can start focusing and leveraging people to contribute and give ownership and incentives. This is where incentive engineering comes in. And with incentive engineering, this is how Bitcoin scaled within a few years to become one of the most valuable products to ever exist. It's a entire philosophical change. It's how Ethereum became one of the most powerful chains. Solana is en route because they have strong incentive engineering. So tying this full picture of what do you want, Web3 perplexing yourself, when I understood what the chains were doing from a economic standpoint of incentive engineering, getting people to do things, then that token becomes a medium of value, and then that medium of value gets exchanged within the economy, the buyer, the seller, the miners. How do you incentivize each? How does the token get utilized? What's the tokenomics of the token itself to create inflation or deflation? How does it get staked to a currency to carry true, not I should say true, but liquid value? And it just led down to a rabbit hole that you have a grand idea. And this is also a big point, is every chain has a purpose. And when you have a purpose that could be tied to a chain, that is where the token and the tokenomics and the true engineering can flourish. So with Bitcoin, it's security of transaction. Right? I was the first to introduce trustless manner. Ethereum's purpose is around computation power, and Solana is around scaling transactions per second. And so is Binance. So they have their purpose, they build a chain, the people that get the coin are inside the ecosystem and they flourish together. So what does I want? Going back to the question, what do you want? Well, I want an economy of exchange of value for education. That's the simplest way I could put it. But what does that mean? An economy of exchange of value for education. Well, what does education mean in the first place? That's where I started writing the white paper. What's the exchange of value? That's a token. What's the tokenomics for creating an exchange of value in education? Was it intrinsic? Is it extrinsic? Then how do you program that? How do you create the smart contract? How do you tie it to a bonding curve? How do you make the token increase in value? How do you incentivize early adopters? How do you create educational curriculum for the community and make people incentivized to use it, leverage it, and how do you tie it to the blockchain itself? How is this data happening in the protocol get added to the chain? So from having the purpose, I went in deep and I realized that there's so many areas that I have to essentially hit the checklist for, and it's complicated. It's hard. I hit the point where this is one of the most complicated things I could ever imagine myself getting into. It was like jumping into a spider web and fighting for my life and just realizing, okay, like I need to be a little stronger here. I need to be more wise and understand the game better to build something. And that's why I've been dedicating my life to this for the past couple of years. Years in the sense of being in the education space. Past couple of months specifically for tokenomics. So now I'm at the point of, okay, I know what I want. I realize I've been perplexed. What's the next step? And this is where, if you are a builder, the video is for you, is create a team and find a way to make it happen. This can be done several ways. You can bootstrap it and gradually build over time. That's a more slower approach. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. I think it's a healthy decision, especially as you have to figure out things as you go. Or a more aggressive approach is where you try to get venture funding, where you have capital to allocate specialized talent. And this is where you would grow into a company and start to recruit talent in a specific area. And this is where Learnio is currently entering. Okay, like, well, we know what we want. We understand the areas that we're perplexed by. What if we get capital, allocate it, and hire specialized talent to help the mission, to help build a protocol, to help define what it means to be educated, to help build tokenomics, program the token, and create an economic inflation curve, tie it to a bonding curve, get the price, tie it to a pool, staking, introduce liquidity, and all that crazy stuff. Right? We can do it if we get the right people on board. So this is where we're at. You know, this is this video is quite interesting because it's somewhat of a spiel of myself and my experience, but I want to introduce the concept of really think about what you want in Web3. Your goal could be as ambitious as trying to introduce tokenomics, or it could be as simple as really just focusing on doing an NFT collection. There's levels to the complexity, or you could just become, I shouldn't say just become, because everything is fairly complicated, but you can become a DeFi trader, where you utilize tokens that are built on the protocol, and you work with exchanges to do yielding or find ways to maneuver and increase your money through DeFi. Right, but the whole purpose is to know what you want and get good at it, and then expand from there. Okay, so I hope this was insightful. I appreciate your time. Daily learnings, right? Every day it's a completely new world. A lot of things to unearth and figure out, but every day we move forward. All right, so with that being said, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.